The premise of Fractured Skies, which is absolute nonsense, but don't worry, the game is really fun, is that 10 islands have emerged from the depths, and starfall is going to fall on each one of them at some point in time. Who knows? You can sometimes predict the future, you can sometimes not. It's up to you to get the most starfall possible so that the beautiful, evil, god-like octopus from the sea will grab your body and throw you back to the heavens where you belong, and the rest of you, well, you didn't get enough starfall, so you're garbage and probably food for the octopus. It doesn't matter. Fractured Skies is a bidding and bluffing game by Ivy Studios. I would qualify it in both of those categories, and with a little bit of resource management, mostly bidding, bluffing, and pure tension as you grit your teeth and look around the table, aware of someone's plans and unaware of what other people know, trying to get the most starfall. It's a very simple game. It takes place over 5 rounds. On each of those rounds, you're going to be putting out a little ship. It should be said that I'm reviewing the retail version of this game. You know me, I'm not a deluxeified guy. Well, I am, but I'm too poor to be a deluxeified guy, so when I heard that there was going to be a retail copy as well, I said, yes, give me that one. I want to see what you're going to get in the retail. I mean, this is going to be a prototype copy, but I imagine retail components will be fairly similar. I don't know. Really, I was just filming a gameplay of this over on Quacklope's channel, and he sent me home with Fractured Skies to do a little review on it. Because I enjoyed it, and I do enjoy it, and I do want to talk about it, because I think it absolutely is a game that is worth your time. But what you'll see here are retail components versus the absolute nonsense of deluxeification that is really cool and we'll talk about, but completely unnecessary. As unnecessary as the theme. Is it fun? Yes. Do you need it? No. What makes this game special are the core mechanics of the game, which I'm about to tell you right now. The game will take place over 5 rounds. Over those rounds, you will be competing for 3 categories of cards. I like to call them the red cards, the orange cards, and the blue cards, because that's what's on their backs. Every round, you'll shuffle this red deck of cards, and you'll flip up a location. Everybody will know where starfall is going to fall in that location. Additionally, depending upon the number of round that you're in, so if you're in round number 1, you're going to draw 1 of these. If you're in round number 5, you're going to be drawing 5 of these. There are going to be 5 blue cards, which also give you locations, but those are placed face down. They're hidden information. You don't get to know what they are. They're sneaky little starfalls, and they're going to fall where they want. But maybe you can take a peek and scout it out. That's what the blue cards do. They also give you starfall. In addition, at the very beginning of the game, you're going to deal out 5 orange cards. These cards will also generate starfall, but they might be a little bit different. Whereas the red and the blue cards deal with, hey, have the most force in a specific location, the orange cards might be a little bit different. They might make you pre-plan for them a little bit more, depending upon where they fall in the lineup. So in one of the games, for example, I had to have the least amount of buildings touching a certain area. So because these orange cards are laid out all at the beginning of the game, you can then look at them potentially early on and start to plan for what's about to happen. But there is a cost to that information, and it might be better to spend those resources that it takes to get that information and build them on things that can get you more stuff throughout the game, bolster your position on the board. And so the game is very simple. As you pursue these various objectives, you can do 3 things on your turn. Number 1, we already talked about. You can spend some resources to take a look at either a blue card or an orange card. Get some more information about where there's going to be potential points. Number 2 is you can use those resources to purchase either fortresses or markets. These are little tokens that you'll put on the board and will help you towards winning these provinces, winning the rewards of either points or resources that these provinces generate. And the crux of the game, the number 1 thing that you can do, is you can place one of your starships on the board face down. Now in the retail version, it's just a little chit. Very simple, you put it face down, it has a number on it. In the deluxeified version, it's an awesome magnetic ship where you click the magnet on the bottom and then put it out there. It's completely excessive and very fun and completely excessive. But the crux of the actual game comes from the numbers on these ships. Everybody has the same restriction. The 3 ships that you get to put out every round. Once you put out your 3rd ship, you pass for the round. You get to choose your player order, either going first, which breaks ties, or going last, which will get you additional resources for the game and subsequent rounds. But the rules that you have to follow for these 3 ships is that their total value cannot add up to more than 10. So you could put out a 10 and 2 zeros. That's fine. You could put out a 2, a 7, and a 1. Completely fine. An 8, a 2, and a 0. A 6, a 3, and a 1. The possibilities are 10. As long as they make up 10, those are the possibilities of what you can put out. But because of that restriction, you're trying to anticipate what everybody else is putting out face down. And to add a little trick to this, a slight complication, everybody's 10s and 1s look the same, and then all the other colors look the same. All the other numbers look the same. So the 10s and the 1s have specifically these white stars around them, which indicate, hey, this could be my 10. I might be playing my best number out here and everything else is a 0. Or maybe it's just a 1. Maybe I've used higher numbers and I only have 1 left, and I'm exposing that to the table. And this distinction provides a really exciting feeling around the table. Every round, as you put things out, a little bit more information is revealed. If you don't see one of those 1s or 10s, you know that there aren't a 1 and a 10. So you know the max that somebody could be bidding is 9. And then you can counter that as well. In addition, if you've built a fortress, well, every little ship that's touching that fortress is worth an extra point. You can also build additional little skimmers that you can add in, which are worth 1 force. But 1 force is pretty good if it's in a province that nobody's fighting over and you're just going to win it outright. And so the tension that is created around the table is really, really fun. The only other IV Studios game that I've played is Veiled Fate, which I have a review on. If you want to check that out, go for it. And I really enjoyed Veiled Fate. I think their other titles look really interesting too, but this one provides a very similar feeling to Veiled Fate in terms of what I like to describe as above-the-table interaction. I think if you have a group that loves that sense, that tension that can be provided by interacting above the table and by staring into your opponent's eyes and then realizing that there's a beautiful shade of green in there when you thought it was just brown, getting lost in their eyes. Oh wait, no, that's a different story. Staring into your opponent's eyes and seeing into their soul and trying to figure out what numbers they have put down and why they're going for it. And as I play this game and as I get better and better at it, I start to develop new little strategies and new things to be aware of around the board. How I've placed out my ships tells something about the numbers that I've chosen. And if I'm trying to bluff that I have a 10, well, I need to be equally aware that would I have put 2 zeros in those other situations? And when you realize that, and when you come to that discovery of what somebody has put down, it feels so good. It feels so good to call it correctly, because calling it correctly, any number, I saw somebody put down something, I was like, I know that is a 7. I know it's a 7 because I know you limped in over there as the 1. I know that's a little 2 and your final one is a 7. And then I was able to put just 8 and get a point. It felt so good. And I think that is what this game is best served as. It's creating those sort of tension points and creating that atmosphere around the table of palpable fights and clawing for those points as quickly as you can get them. There is the ability for somebody to take a strong commanding lead and just mathematically at the end of the game be so far ahead that chances are they've already won. And sure, if you're playing against me, who's exceptional at all board games, you might encounter that. For me, that's sort of secondary. What really elevates this game to an exciting factor and makes me very excited about it is that idea of reading the opponent's intentions and the different strategies that can happen. Because whoever comes in first gets the points in that area. But if there are no points in that area, then they get the resources in that area. All places have a specific resource type associated with them. And sometimes you might be trying to set yourself up for the next round in terms of what you want to build, whether it be a marker, which generates even more resources every time, which allows you to be drowning in resources and gives you enough resources to learn every piece of information out there and be prepared for the end of the game. Or you can invest in fortresses, which add to that strength, which make those zero ships viable for fighting for something. I remember feeling so satisfying calling that somebody had a 1, putting my 0 ship, which was bolstered by a fortress, and then passing first so that I could be first player and I could break the tie, and then I was able to win out on what people thought was going to be a hugely contested province. Nobody thought it was worth going there because they put their 10 there. I was able to win a point with a 0, and honestly, it feels so good. And I think that's where this game is best served, is in those little moments. The moments of predicting your opponent, and that's something that I love in a game. I love trying to get into somebody's head. I love when somebody's in my head. I love making a move that reveals too much information if people are paying attention. I think this game is pretty fun, and I've definitely enjoyed my time with it. And I also think the retail copy is completely fine. Sure, you get all those big spaceships, pirate ships that fly, flying pirate ships in the deluxe version, and the cool magnets, which are, magnets I've heard are magic. But in this one, you get a simple player screen. It's great. You don't need more than this. You need to hide what numbers you have and which numbers are out on the board. You don't need a dual layer tracking device. You just need a bunch of cardboard chits. That's essentially what this game comes down to. Solid cardboard, but just a bunch of cardboard chits in the retail version. That's it. Whether those are enough components to warrant, Ivy Studios, they tend to have a little bit higher price tag, even on that sort of retail side of things. Well, you have to make that decision. But for me, from a design standpoint, I'm really impressed with this game, and much more impressed than I thought I would be. I think that's kind of the case with their designs. I feel like, maybe that'll be okay. And then when you actually play it and play it with the right people, you can feel that tension. You can feel that sensation over the table. And so I would recommend it to people who enjoy that over the table interaction and who have a group who will really get on board with it. Playing as these varied factions of, dragons trying to lift a big sword, two-headed dragons trying to drink some potions, a little dragon riding a big dragon, a dragon wearing a mask with buttons for eyes, and then a mechanic who fell into a volcano. Those are the official titles of all of the factions. That's part of the lore, which we get into the really, really deep lore. That's part of it. Again, this is still prototype rulebook, but again, it's a rulebook that is too chunky and wordy for the actual gameplay that happens here, but I appreciate that the gameplay is so light because it can really be accessible to a lot of people. And I've played this with people who I've played lots of games with and people who I haven't played too many games with, and we all kind of enjoyed our plays of it. There's not much more to say. I really just wanted to capture the sensation of how I felt while playing the game. A few other little rules minutia that kind of add a little to the gameplay is whenever you play a ship down in a province, in an island, first you also get to draw a card that hasn't been used. So you know that there are going to be no points in this specific location, and you can use that to your advantage or not. Go there for the resources, go there to bluff people, go there with a small ship to bluff people that's something that you saw. There's a lot of room for clever, again, above the table interaction, and I think it's pretty fun. For my purposes, I don't know which one of these I like more, Veiled Fate or Fractured Sky. I feel like Veiled Fate still takes the cake for me between the two, but they both have elements of that bluffing and betting and trying to read your opponents and what you're doing. And I do like the resource management, the fact you can use resources for multiple different things and all of them feel beneficial to you. Feels like there's kind of two core strategies. Get a lot of markets and try to get a lot of information, or get a lot of fortresses and be able to muscle your way and beat people in ties that way, and just rely on your instincts and your reading of people. Yeah, both are pretty good. I'd have to see a full final production copy of Fractured Sky and see if there's any changes or anything happens in development, but honestly at this point it feels pretty full-fleshed that I don't imagine much will change, except maybe some weird backwards iconography that feels incredibly backwards on the orange cards. when you're setting up the orange cards, there's sort of a tier. There's tiers of cards that go into different sections so that the ones later on require more planning. The ones earlier on are, similar to the blue ones, basically. And so in that iconography, there's like pips on the icons, and it's like, oh yeah, 1 pip goes at the end. Why that wouldn't be for round 1? That's just a minor nitpick. Other than that, I think these games are really fun. I think they are. They're solid, they're fun. They're a bit expensive for my personal tastes, but if you have the right group for them, I can see these getting a lot of play. So there you go. Since this is sort of a preview prototype copy, it doesn't get an official sort of rating, but I really quite enjoyed the game, and I would highly recommend you check it out. If you like anything in the bidding and bluffing genre, this is absolutely one to take note of. If bidding and bluffing aren't your thing, probably not. But for me, I really like bidding and bluffing, so therefore I really enjoyed my time with this. And legitimately, that's why I wanted to do a review on it, to talk about my experience of it. If I had hated it, well, I probably wouldn't have been sent home with a copy to do coverage on. Now would I have? Good thing I liked it. So there you go, check it out. It's on Kickstarter right now as the time of this video is being released. Likely you can get it from Ivy Studios' store. Not a lot of their stuff hits retail, but you can always probably find it on their store. Just be mindful that it is going to be, they're going to be expensive. But they definitely give you a fun experience, and Fractured Sky is no different. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you found this review helpful. As always, you can drop any questions in the comments below. I'll try to answer as many of them as I can. And I guess that's it. My name's Chris George, and I do not have a catchphrase. But I do have a 100% win ratio in Fractured Sky, and that's not gonna change. Not even a bit. Not a single bit. Oh, except for the games that I forgot that I lost. But we wiped them from our memory. Yeah, it's a good one. Check it out.